So let us begin with our guided meditation. And what I do is I will invite the bell 15 minutes into the meditation for those of you who would like to shift posture. So maybe you start with sitting and then you decide, let's move to standing and see how that feels like. Or, I think I want to walk. Actually, can I ask you to move a little closer that way? Yeah, just in case people walk around. Is that all right? Yeah, just so that we have a little more of an opening right there. Yes, exactly. That's perfect. Thank you. Mhm. Yeah, and so or you start wherever you are and then just feel into it. Does it feel supportive for me to continue in this way? Or sometimes if we're feeling sleepy dullness, shifting posture could be helpful, generating more energy, opening up the eyes, maybe breathing a little bit harder so we can get in touch with the breath again. Also, gladdening the mind, you know, trying to seek for what is good about this moment, right? What's good? Oh, wow, I took time to be here for myself, right? Whatever that might be for you. So I'll offer some anchors as well throughout the practice at the beginning, and then you can choose an anchor that feels supportive for you, and then you can shift to other anchors if that feels good and it feels right. But knowing that you're always in choice. And at any point in time, if you feel like you want to come out of the practice, maybe it feels too much or like it just you can't continue, that's okay too. So you know that all is welcome. So as long as however you are, you continue to maintain that awareness, aware of thoughts, emotions, sensations, aware of whatever's happening, aware of yourself. That's really the essence here, the practice is to cultivate this moment to moment awareness of what's going on in here. And then we'll close with a loving kindness practice and maybe something else too. But I will offer a poem, a song, or a chant at the end. Just see what comes up inside of our practice time. So wherever you are now, I'd like to invite you to settle into a posture that feels supportive, natural, simple, and easeful. Noticing where there might be tension in the body and seeing if there's a possibility to soften, dropping the shoulders, relaxing the back, just like dishes neatly stacked one on top of the other, letting each part of the body come to rest. You might notice where the body's making contact with the surface, the chair, the cushion, or the floor. Notice where your hands are resting. Maybe the hands are sweaty or dry or warm or cold. Notice the belly rising and falling with each in breath and out breath. Noticing the chest expanding and contracting. And maybe for now you choose to deepen and lengthen the breath, inviting in that breath energy that awakens and energizes the body and the mind. Or maybe breathing in such a way that calms and soothes the nervous system. We know how to do this. We are just here trusting in the intelligence within our body to take care of us. Trusting in the breath to take care of us. And trusting in the earth below us to hold us and stabilize us and ground us as we return back to the goodness within. You might anchor your awareness to sound, the sound of my voice or the sound in your environment. Anytime you are in touch with sound, recognizing that it's happening here in the present moment, that's your call to come back to here and now. Or maybe choosing to ground yourself in the tactile sensations, feeling the pressure, the weight of the body. Noticing the contact points in the body to the hardness of the surface. Or maybe the breath is a supportive anchor for you, giving rise to that interest to how the breath is. And observing the process of breathing and getting in touch with this miracle of breathing, this breath that gives us life. Breath may be energizing and or calming and soothing. Maybe you notice the cool air entering the nostrils and the warm air leaving the nostrils. So choosing any anchor that is simple and maybe even easy to be with. An anchor that feels neutral. tuning into the sensations felt in the body, maybe feeling that breath energy, or feeling that tingling, vibrating, pulsating sensation wherever that is for you. Or maybe there's no sensation at all. Getting in touch with the feeling tone of this body. Getting curious about where there's a possibility to soften, loosening the grip, letting go of the tension. When we direct our awareness to the breath or the body, it helps us to break free from the prison of mind. We're no longer harassed by the mind, but now there's a direct experience with how it feels like here and now to inhabit this body. To directly experience the aliveness of the body. And to arouse that interest, that interest to stay, that interest to come closer to our internal experience. We're not going to go down that rabbit hole about that emotion or thought, but we're just slightly touching it. And notice how the body is receiving that. Softening. Maybe smiling, offering ourselves this kindness, this care. Does this moment call for more energy or more relaxation. Listening to that inner wisdom of the body. Noticing any time the mind wanders or there's an experience of discomfort or boredom. How do we meet those moments? What is the energy we give to them? And is it possible to redirect our attention to an anchor? To generate this wise attention to stay in the openness, that gap between thoughts, or that pause in between each in-breath and each out-breath. Can we linger there for a while longer? Giving rise to that determination to stay awake. And to turn towards the goodness. Perhaps seeing where you can access that good feeling, that wholesome state of mind. Maybe it's found in the steadiness of sound or the breath. Or maybe it's found in a neutral place in the body. Lingering there, resting your attention there, wherever that might be. That gives rise to this feeling of goodness. sense of all rightness. Wherever you are now, I'd like to invite you to bring your awareness to the heart center. Maybe putting a hand to the heart, or maybe just sensing into what this area feels like. What's present for you there? What sensations are you in touch with in this area? Perhaps sending the breath into the heart center. This place where we feel the sense of longing for love, where we feel hurt, where we feel pain, where we feel love. And acknowledging what is there. Hello, heart. I've come home to be with you now. I've come home to listen to your pain and your joy, your longing and your happiness, and sending your heart some kindness and care. And we'll end with a loving kindness song. And so as we turn towards our heart, maybe arousing this feeling of warmth, of kindness, just like we would to our 5-year-old, the 5-year-old child in us. The way we look at that child with soft eyes, with a smile, with care and concern. Sending yourself some wishes of loving kindness. May I be filled with loving kindness. May I be well. May I be peaceful and at ease. May I be happy. Knowing that we too deserve our own love, our own care. Our own acknowledgement. And now extending this out to someone we know who's struggling right now, or maybe someone we're having a difficult time with. Someone we wish to understand or to make amends with. Bringing them up to mind, or a group of people, knowing that they too long for happiness, they too long to be free from suffering. They too want peace and ease and stability. They too long to be free from confusion. And let us send warmth and care and loving kindness to those who we want to extend our heart out to. May you be filled with love and kindness. May you be well. May you be peaceful and at ease. May you be happy. And recognizing this desire in all of us to have peace and security, this desire for us to experience the highest happiness, to experience well-being, that this is what brings us all together rather than separate us, is that we all long for this sense of well-being. May we be filled with loving kindness. May we be well. May we be peaceful and at ease. May we be happy. And extending now this heart full of love and kindness and warmth to all beings, living things and non-living things, those who are of the human form and animal form, to those that we can see with our eyes and those that are beyond our ability to see, all the forms of life, to the planet, to the cosmos. May all be filled with loving kindness. May all be well. May all be peaceful and at ease. May all be happy. Slowly and mindfully rising from meditation in your own time and in your own way. Savoring what has been cultivated during this time of practice. What are you in touch with? And as you open your awareness to include the whole body, to invite in movement, to open up the sense doors, to take in the space around you, continuing to carry this wise attention and how you move, how you meet whatever's arising through the visual field, through the auditory field, through the sense doors, through the mind, through the sense of touch and taste, with the sense of curiosity and touching the experience, and then coming back to here. And feel free if you want to stand up and stretch your legs or change posture. You're welcome to do that. Throughout much of our days, there, I know at least for me, sometimes there's this feeling like we have to put ourselves in a certain position, whether it's working in front of the computer or being on our phone, being at our work seat or standing. And here we're practicing how to assume these postures in a loving, gentle way. Whereas we're standing or walking or sitting, that it supports our ability to be mindful and that it could support well being. That well being doesn't necessarily have to come only when we get to lie down and sleep, but that in cultivating this present moment awareness, where we're in tune and in touch with how much effort and energy to apply to each moment, where we can still experience a sense of rest and ease and kindness towards our body, not pushing ourselves beyond our capacity and not falling into this sleepy dullness that has us feel the heaviness throughout the day. But there's this, we're learning how to titrate this energy and this effort to stay awake, stay present. I want to read an excerpt from Elizabeth Lexer. She's one of the founder of Omega Institute, a retreat center in New York. Mm. I am fascinated by what it takes to stay awake in difficult times. I marvel at what we all do in times of transition, how we resist, how we surrender, how we stay stuck, and how we grow. I have seen people crumble in times of trouble, lose their spirit, and never fully recover. I have seen others protect themselves fiercely from any kind of change until they are living a half life, safe yet stunted. I've tried both ways. I have gone back to sleep in order to resist the forces of change, and I have stayed awake and been broken open. Both ways are difficult, but one way brings with it the gift of a lifetime. If we can stay awake when our lives are changing, secrets will be revealed to us. Secrets about ourselves, about the nature of life, and about the eternal source of happiness and peace that is always available, always renewable, already within us. So, in the moment where we feel this heaviness, this part of us that wants to check out or fall asleep, you know, we are practicing to arouse that energy to stay awake. So the practice of meditation is training ourselves to stay awake, to meet each moment fully, to experience the aliveness of the moment, whether it's pleasant or unpleasant. And even in those moments where it's neutral, we recognize, oh, it feels neutral, or I don't feel anything at all, but I'm aware that I don't feel anything at all right now. And also recognizing the challenge of staying awake. That means that we have to feel our feelings more. That means that we have to touch the tenderness of pain and sorrow and sadness and disappointment. But that we also get to experience joy. Sometimes joy, surprisingly, can be hard for some of us to feel if we're not used to it. We don't feel that we deserve to be happy or to be joyful, or that things are supposed to always be hard, and we don't allow ourselves to turn towards that joy or that goodness, or that we deserve kindness and care and well-being. The practice that we did earlier with the loving kindness, as I shared it in a song, is a way to treat and remedy those parts of us that have long felt like we didn't deserve to be cared for. The parts of us that often put ourselves last, where we're just trying to make sure everyone is okay before we take care of ourselves. So there's an invitation there that when we find ourselves doing that, we can get curious. Am I feeling stable and steady right now? Or do I feel a bit off balance, ungrounded? And to come back to that part of us that knows, that feels, that is in touch with where we really are at. And staying awake has us recognize when our lives, if we can stay awake when our lives are changing, secrets will be revealed to us. So here she calls it secrets, but you know, in other words, I say like the insights, the aha moments about ourselves, about the nature of life. These things will be revealed to us. And then we learn how to source our own happiness from within. We learn how to source our own peace from within, that it was always there available to us. So today in the cultivating and developing skillfulness, we're learning how to develop this within ourselves. And last week I shared about the other two parts. So there's in Buddhism there are four efforts. So and why is effort important? So a lot of time In a lot of teachings, there's an emphasis on mindfulness. And mindfulness is just the beginning. To be aware is just the beginning. Right now, what do we do with what we're aware of? We can be aware of our patterns, but then our patterns still play out. We can be aware that we're doing something that's not serving for us, but we still do it. I think of this of, when I spend time teaching meditation in the jail, in the DAOs, you know, that we all have this mind. Even the adults in custody, they know what they're doing is not serving them. But to tell them to stop, it's like, well, how? I know I want to stop. I know I want to stop doing drugs, stop using alcohol, stop numbing myself out, stop hurting others, stop hurting my family. But I don't know how to stop. Right? So for us, it might be something smaller. I don't know how to stop taking the bait or whatever that might be for us. I don't know how to say no. I don't know how to respond skillfully, whatever that might be. Maybe I'll pause here because I want to just uh, hear from those of you who are open to sharing. Maybe right now, thinking, reflecting, what is it that you, where is it that you experience like something that you've been stuck on or working with where you're like, I don't know how to, and what is that for you? I don't know how to stop working so much, or I don't know how to improve this relationship with my parent or my kids, or I don't know how to come out of this. What might that be for you? So we'd like to share. And this will help me to direct where the teachings will go as far as giving concrete suggestions for how we work with, cultivating skillfulness. And as we look at this together and explore and discover together what that might be for our, circumstances. And oftentimes in sharing, it's we offer up a part of ourselves, but in turn, it connects to someone else's current experience, and it becomes the gift that we all can relate to. So I invite you to bring in your voice. And for those of you on Zoom, you can raise your hand, your virtual hand, and I'll be able to see you and call on you. And for those of you in the room, there's that mic. You can just come up and get the mic, and I'll know that you're up next. So we have Margaret. Hi, Margaret. Yeah.
Yeah, hi. A lot of times we think that we are in charge,
Mm-hmm.
and and to give ourselves the opportunity to stand back and witness what's going on, to step away for a moment and really watch what's going on, and uh, we begin to recognize that um, we may not need to act in this very moment. It can be uncomfortable, but it's actually almost liberating to know that we're not in charge of it all, and it what we can do is as I say, step back
Mm-hmm.
some. And I think that's a helpful start
Yeah.
a lot of times.
Yeah. Yeah. I appreciate, Margaret, what you're saying. I was just mm, thinking what came up to mind is this talk from one of my teacher, Ajahn Sona, who I met a couple weeks ago, and he's a monk, a Buddhist monk from Canada. He has a forest monastery in BC, and he talks about how we can. But the term sounds controversial because I think in our culture today, it's like, ooh, don't do that, that's bad. But he talks about suppressing in a way that to me feels really I can relate to, especially being from the Vietnamese culture where we do, there's a, how I was brought up was you don't have to say everything that's on your mind or everything you feel you need to express. So suppressing speech, emotion, right? And then thoughts. And sometimes that's the wisest thing to do, right?
Mhm.
Like you were saying that stepping back, moving away instead of needing to now come forward and I need to do something. I need to speak my truth. I need to let them hear it or know it. So there's kind of this, and seeing what happens when we practice restraint.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah,
It's,
exactly. Well, can I say one more
yeah,
thing?
please.
Um, there's a wonderful teacher that has helped me to understand that he describes it as pinning down the defilements.
Hmm.
You sort of need to pin it down and not basically indulge it
Yeah.
and to take a good look at it. And then you begin to understand it.
Yeah.
And there again, that's a good start, I think.
Mhm. Thank you. Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah. So the mind is, in its essential nature, is luminous, but through the conditions and everything that have now obscured the mind from being able to see things clearly, we call that impurities of mind, or as Margaret says, defilement, where greed, aversion or anger and delusion, seeing things, having misconceptions of how things really are, is what starts to form around the mind. And it has us not be able to see things clearly. It blocks us from, this life force, from love, from joy, from happiness. So we think that we have to get it from somewhere outside of ourselves, right? That if I can just have more of that, then I will be happy, or then I will be at peace. If they only do that, then I will be happy. If the government, the president, if everything around us would change in a certain way, then I'll be happy. Then I can feel a sense of security. So here it's working with mind and cultivating these wholesome qualities. And so I'll just pause there before I go on. Does anyone else want to share anything for you that's coming up around? Where do you see applying skillfulness or practicing skillfulness in something, an area? Yeah, so I'll continue in this thread here. So the last week I shared about the first two of the four efforts. And last week I talked about the unwholesome mental states that we are working with. So the first one is the unwholesome mental states that have already arisen. We're working to extinguish them, to abandon them, right? And then the unwholesome states of mind that have not yet arisen, we're working to make sure, prevent them from arising. So I think of it as like a garden. There are weeds in the garden, and the weeds that are already there, we're working to uproot them, to pull them out. And then there might be weeds that are starting to come out from beneath the roots are in there, but we can't see them from the surface of the soil. They're underneath. They have not arisen. They have not come to surface, but we know that they're there. So I think of it as like a hole where you go in and you really rake all the roots out, really get deep in there to pull those out before they start to even form. And so we're prepping the ground and we're constantly in our practice, whether it's formal meditation practice or just in our daily life, that in life that's our place where we can practice examining the mental states. What's happening? Oh, jealousy. Ooh, anger. Ooh, judgment, right? And working to uproot. Ooh, depression. I'm going into that Eeyore mode, or whatever that is, or just seeing things from always the negative side. So, oh, that's there. So now we go in and uproot that, right? And so those are the first two, and you can listen to the talk. It's on our YouTube channel. And so today, working with the wholesome qualities of mind, it's to give rise to continue to maintain and sustain the wholesome qualities of mind that are already there. So as we scan within ourselves where we often find ourselves like in that place of kindness and goodness. Maybe we're generous or we're really helpful, we're really accommodating to people or whatever that is. Continue to recall those qualities, those good qualities within us and acknowledge yourself and continue to give rise to that. Keep doing it. Keep doing that. And then the qualities that have not yet arisen, continue to work to develop those qualities. Maybe we see someone who is so great at something, they're very um, uh, giving, and maybe we're not so giving. We can, you know, compliment them and honor them, and then cultivate that quality. So we can honor people who have certain qualities that we don't have, and now we see how can I cultivate this quality within me, right? So again, like this garden where now, after we've prepped the soil, we dug out all the weeds, we pulled them out. Now we plant the seeds of wholesome qualities, wholesome mental states that can, now we put that seed into the ground. And this is where the effort comes in watering them, caring for those seeds, tending to them, giving it the right conditions, sun and good soil and enough water and fertilizer so that those wholesome mental states can keep growing. And I was thinking about this while we were in meditation. It's like to the point that when our mind is full of anything, that it's full of good memories, good thoughts about people, good ideas, even. Because those good memories, good thoughts, good ideas, wholesome ones, actually, what will happen is it will give us this energetic joy, this feeling of goodness and well being. It's like when we're really delighted or feeling so much gladness and joy for someone, what does it do to us, right? Like it feels really great in the body. There's a sense of like good energy. There's a sense of vitality when I'm feeling glad for someone, hearing a good news from a friend, and oh my gosh, I'm so happy for you. And so that energetic joy is what takes us to that state of serenity and bliss, and then into that subtle calm stillness, that state of equanimity. So the mind becomes equanimous, not by way of trying to clear it, but by way of first uprooting and preventing the unwholesome states, stopping them. So mindfulness is this gatekeeper that is awake and looking who's coming to the door, and do I let this guest enter Or do I stop this guest? Is this guest going to serve me? Or is this guest going to, you know, is a foolish guest that I don't need to let in? Right? Is this guest going to contribute to my well-being and happiness and peace and joy and wellness? So mindfulness is gatekeeper observing thoughts, observing feelings, not just not doing anything about it, not just observing, but now with effort and energy, you know, abandoning or guarding, preventing ourselves from indulging and going deeper into that if it's something, that's not wholesome, not supportive, right? The states of anger or, um, and I have a list here that I will share with you also. You can get a sense of all the different mental states that the Buddha named, and it was put together after he passed away. There were a number of scholars who sat down and was like, okay, all these things that the Buddha talk about, we're gonna organize it into a map, right, so that we can more easily see it and dissect it and analyze it. So giving us that framework and structure to be able to look at it. Oh, so um, once we study it and identify it, now we can identify for ourselves when it comes up. Like, oh, that's restlessness, or that's, you know, aversion or clinging or desire. So there's all these different qualities or states of mind. Pride. Oh, that's uh, shame or guilt, right? So being able to reference it and know it, is this wholesome or unwholesome? And from there we can decide, I'm going to change the channel here. I'm having an unwholesome thought. It's not serving me. It's not a skillful thought. And then change the channel, right? So the word sama is used in before the word effort. And sama could mean skillful, or it could mean wise or right. So here I called it right effort, but it could also be known as skillful effort or wise effort. And because a lot of times when we say right, it means that there's a wrong. And this is more of what's going to serve us. So what's that wholesome effort that will lead us into more peace and happiness, into the state of being awake, of staying awake. So I'll share this handout here. Um, it got cut off a little bit at the top. Thank you, Tabitha. And then for those of you on Zoom, so depending on which uh, tradition, Buddhist tradition or lineage, there's like with the Plum Village tradition with my teacher Zen Master Thich Khan, he puts together 51 mental formations, and then this version that I printed out for those of you in the room is it has 52 mental factors or formations, and I'm going to share this for those of you on Zoom so you can see it, and I'll also put it in the chat here. Actually, I'll put it in the chat so you can uh, download it and open it up. So if you notice the way this is broken up, we have, you know, wholesome mental factors, and then it goes from wholesome mental factors to also the unwholesome mental factors, and then wholesome mental factors. And this gives us a sense of, what are these qualities. So you see the first word being in Pali, which is the language of the Buddha during his time, and then you see it translated a few ways. Um, and what I find really helpful about this is that it gives us a framework to identify when we fall into these states. So the first five is uh, is connected to every type of consciousness. It's uh, consciousness or contact, right? So that's uh, contact, the body, feeling, perception, volition or mental formation. And then there's concentration, being able to, that state of mind that is concentrated. And then there's the vitality and attention. Like the mental life vitality could also be kind of like conviction or energy. And then there's attention. So this you can take home and really spend time looking at this, but notice, some of these states, right? So if we look down at the unwholesome states, there's delusion, lack of having moral shame. So shame here is considered good, but like this not having, lacking moral shame is considered unwholesome. And there's this sense of fearlessness of wrong. So when we are not afraid of our uh, unethical behavior, we don't have the kind of fear that is actually the good kind of fear to have about our karma or about wrongdoing. That's also unwholesome. When a person is like reckless and they don't care about how they're harming themselves and others, right? They're unafraid of that. That's I love how this shows that it's rooted in ignorance and not seeing things clearly. Right? That's like the blind spot I was saying earlier. And restlessness or distraction, right? Greed, wrong view, conceit or pride. So all of these qualities. And if we look down further at like the there's like the sloth, torpor, and doubt. Those are part of the obstructions of mind. These are what colors the mind. And all of these are, we would call them what colors the mind. So just imagine like if the if when we are when the mind is still and we're in that state of samadhi or deep concentration, our mind is not tainted. And these hindrances sometimes are in the sutras like they are dyes. They color the mind, they taint the mind. And to me, like that's so helpful because instead of it being like something that belongs to me, I can see that oh, it's not personal. It's this that's coloring my mind right now due to conditioning, due to the fact that I've watered these seeds so they come up. So when we practice, skillful effort, we're working to let these seeds weaken. So when anger or jealousy or restlessness or desire come up, how will we navigate that in a skillful way to weaken those seeds, to let them dry out and then dissipate? And in here, we're also looking at the wholesome qualities that we can cultivate that actually starts to fill up our mind and becomes the antidote for the unwholesome. So one of the things that when I was at the Deer Park retreat with the Plum Village monastics in Escondido, California, um, I love what one of the monastics said, which is, sometimes we focus so much on like the unwholesome and the suffering, and it's like just chill out for a moment. Let's just go and work on like watering those flowers and the fruit and let that take over the garden. And then the weeds are so small in the garden, you don't see them anymore, but we know that they're there. And then once you start to enjoy the fruit and the veggies, okay, now I'll go in and start to pull out those weeds, because there's that way in which we can we don't have to do the all of the work right here and now to get it all out. We can continue to nourish ourselves along the way and, reap the benefit of practicing, cultivating wholesome states of mind. And, you know, joy, equanimity, loving kindness, and compassion are these four qualities that directly treat those negative mind states. Anytime we can access that gladness, anytime that we can brighten up the mind, it not only does it bring us to a state of well-being, but it also weakens those other unwholesome states, anxiety, fear, doubt, restlessness. Margaret, I see your hands up. Yeah.
Yeah, listening to a Dharma talk a while back, I remember the teacher said that the hindrances are something that we do. They're not just something that happens,
Yeah.
something that we do, and therefore we can counter. Like you said, we can counter them. And the other thing that I wanted to mention, the expression in Pali, the
Hmm.
hiriotama,
Yeah.
is that the healthy moral dread?
Yes, it is.
That's what I thought. That's
Yeah,
what I,
Hiri and Ottappa. I have a Hiri and Ottappa is the healthy shame and guilt.
yes,
Yeah,
yes.
that's something that's not talked about a lot in our culture.
Right,
In
right.
the Asian culture, having shame and guilt is actually good because it's our moral compass. It guides us to
Yeah,
not continue to do wrong and not
yeah,
to cause harm to ourselves and others.
yeah.
So we don't have time to go into that, but if you're curious about it, uh, Joseph Goldstein has a really good talk on uh, um, uh, uh, Hiri and Ottappa, the
Yeah,
two
yeah. Thank you.
qualities. Yeah, thank you, Margaret. Yes, and I thank you for bringing that up. I really appreciate you saying about the hindrances, the five main hindrances, which are part of the unwholesome mind states, but they're highly talked about is restlessness and or agitation, that's sleepy dullness or lethargy, um, aversion or anger, hatred falls into that category, and doubt, doubting in ourselves, doubting in the practice, doubting in what's the truth, um, and and then there's what's the other one? Desire and lust. So that desirous mind that's always clinging and wanting, sense pleasure, that kind of sensuous experiences. That kind of mind falls into boredom a lot. It's like, now seeking for something more, better, or different. Like it's not satisfied. It's just constantly like there's a hunger, a a fire, that wants to be fed. Um, and what Margaret is saying is that certain activities we engage in waters those seeds. So when we look at how these things continue to manifest in the mind, we are to examine, our speech, our action, and thought. And here in the four efforts, we're looking at mental states, but I also would invite us all into looking at activities, the physical activities that we engage in, who we associate with, what activities we engage in, what parties we go to or don't go to. All of these things matter because it all feeds and waters certain seeds, conversations. What are we watching? What are we listening to? What do we read or hear? All of these things will water seeds in the mind, right? Even watching a certain type of movie or listening to a certain music, that can give rise to a desirous mind or an angry mind or a mind that is filled with joy and happiness and peace. So even in those ways, we're not monks or nun like vowing to an ascetic life. So we still are so involved and engaged in the world, but choosing how am I what am I going to water inside of this mind? And through actions, through speech, right? Through all of the senses, what I see, hear, taste, touch, feel, and think, right? I feel like that's another aspect of right effort that comes into play is like on a physical level of like how we engage with the world and how we take in the world as well. And the word karma is, I love this simple and really direct way of understanding karma from the Plum Village tradition, which is karma is produced by body, speech, and mind. What we think, what we say, right? And then the actions, our deeds. So when we want to change our destiny, when we want to have a better life, we start to look at that very closely with body, speech, and mind. What is wholesome or what is unwholesome? What to prevent, abandon, and what to cultivate, what to uh, continue to um, generate inside of us. And how do we continue to water those good seeds and also turn our mind towards goodness? In um, my work with teaching mindfulness-based stress reduction, it's the most studied uh, methodology out there where, we're looking at how to reshape the way we think and see things so that it actually supports well-being and help us experience a reduction of pain and stress and anxiety and promote a sense of wellness and promote a good quality of life. And in this whole 8-week course and hours of practice, there's a shift that occurs where a person starts to see, oh my God, instead of focusing on this, I turn my attention to this. And then some of the ways we start to reprogram our habit energy so that we can now be more in alignment with, wellness, with um, being good to ourselves, in touch with our own inner wisdom, and being able to hear that soft voice that's saying, come home, take care of me, listen to me. I need you to pay attention. Right? There's another version here. I'll leave it here for those of you who want to flip through it. I couldn't get the printer to print out all the copy, and it's like 6 pages. But I also really like this version. It talks about the some of the other wholesome qualities really well because it describes it in like one word. Um, so you're welcome to take pictures of it. Um, This is done by one of my teachers and Master Thich Nhat Hanh. It's done in Vietnamese, Sanskrit, English, and French and Chinese. So I'll leave it on the table over there. And then for those of you online, I'll put the PDF file in the chat for you to download. Any anything anyone like to share before we end with a chant? Anything that's coming up for you? Anything you're seeing newly or ponderings or I don't really get this, or this is a lot. Mhm. Yes,
Hey, this is Peter. Something rattling around in my brain and my heart is I think when I have had a lot of good experience cultivating the wholesome and even in relation to some pretty painful relationships and behaviors
Mm.
and I just felt great while doing it, but then there's this like desire to like want to cling to that and
Mm.
not not have it go back to like the darker thoughts or the more painful pieces, but just hold on to like that joyful. So I think just that's kind of the from me, like trying to work with that, and
Mhm.
then also like, are there skillful ways to like hold the unwholesome in the garden, like, and not necessarily suppress or push away, but to just kind of be with,
Yeah.
not to let that grow, but just also not to try to push away because
Yes.
so
Absolutely. I appreciate your question very much. Um, it's natural for us to want to cling to the wholesome or the pleasant parts of our, life, the things that are going well and good for us. So just recognizing that, oh yeah, of course I'm doing that. And then I think um as you were speaking, what came up to my mind is this part of being when we're in community, there's so many ways to access wholesome, experiences. When we're with good friends, good spiritual friends, people who are also like-minded, who are also in search and practicing what we're working on here, right? So when we're around like-minded spiritual friends, that support can also give rise to many more wholesome states of mind. hmm And that's actually one of the refuge that is highly encouraged when you're on this path. This we call it the path because it's a path that leads to freedom and liberation and fulfillment, right? Living a life fully. And so when we are with others who are also on this path, the spiritual path, this Buddhist path, um, we have that support. And like in our morning meditation group, even when a person comes in and they feel really depressed or down and out about something, as our time together unfolds, it's like, oh, there's a sense of support and sense of safety and security here. And then that helps access the feeling of security and safety and well-being within, and being able to see, what else is good, right? And some of that we can give rise from within, but then we're in training, right? So while we're in training, some of that comes from our community, from our good spiritual friends. Um, but I think that the part of us, like, I know when I cling to the good things, it's because I think that there won't be more coming. So it's like, clinging to it because if I don't cling to it, I'm going to lose it, right? But it's nature. It's going to come and go. And um, you asked the question about uh, how to not suppress the other seeds. So I think that that other part is like for me, it's acknowledging those aspects of us that are still there with kindness and just this gentleness. Like I know you're there. I actually give that part of me a name. Mine is called Tyrone, the part that's like gotta do this and pushing myself really hard or being hard on myself or all of that. So whatever that is for each one of us, maybe it's Eeyore, maybe it's whatever the name um is is being kind to that part of us, like instead of trying to wish that part of us to go away, stop doing that. It's I know you're there, come and sit beside me. It's like that. I think of like child who's crying in the car. Yes, yes, I know. Just you could cry. It's okay. It's okay. I'm here. And we're still our mindfulness and is still driving, the vehicle, not the child's crying. And then the child can be right there next to us or in the back seat. And we just hear the child, you know, and we give the child love and care and soothe that child. So soothe those parts of us that, are still coarse or still has some of its, the flaws or whatever you want to call it. But that's just recognizing that that's a habit energy that is so deep seated. It just takes time. And when we treat it with kindness and compassion, those parts of us, um, that child heals. And eventually that child no longer needs to call for our attention anymore. It's like, okay, I can rest now. So that's one of the ways. There's so many more ways that I can think of, but just due to time, I'll kind of keep it at that. Yeah. Yeah. Does that help? Mm. Thank you, Peter, for your question. Um, just checking to see if there's anyone else that'd like to share, if there's anything burning. I'd like to end with this sutra called the Metta Sutta, and it's the Buddha discourse on loving kindness. And can someone pass it on? Thank you. And as you're welcome to chant with me or just listen in. And I invite you to, when you are um, hearing or reading this chant, um, just notice the wholesome qualities and the unwholesome qualities that are being named. And you can start to see how they're like, okay, if this is unwholesome, this is what you treat it with, this is the wholesome. So what I appreciate, I'm giving it this at this angle right now where we're looking at this, but how we can cultivate that mind of loving kindness, that mind that is of friendliness, towards those parts of us, of befriending those parts within ourselves, but then also befriending others, having this inclusive view that is not judging, but it's like welcoming all that's there with this kind of equal wise attention. Mm. Go. And like for those of you on Zoom, and you'll see where there is a little diamond underneath the vowel. Um, you lower your tone, and then where there's a diamond above the vowel, you increase your tone. So it's, and then there's where there's a line, you extend that note out. Um, and this is a way of chanting in the Thai forest tradition, in a Theravada Buddhist tradition. Now let us chant the Buddha's words on loving kindness. This is what should be done by one who is skilled in goodness and who knows the path of peace. Let them be able and upright, straightforward and gentle in speech, humble and not conceited, contented and easily satisfied, unburdened with duties, and frugal in their ways, peaceful and calm, and wise and skillful, not proud and demanding in nature. Let them not do the slightest thing that the wise would later reprove, wishing in gladness and in safety. May all beings be at ease, whatever living beings there may be, whether they are weak or strong, omitting none, the great or the mighty, medium, short or small, the seen and the unseen, those living near and far away, those born and to be state. Let none through anger or ill will wish harm upon another, even as a mother protects with her life her child, her only child. So with a boundless heart should one cherish all living beings, radiating kindness over the entire world, spreading upwards to the skies and downwards to the depths, outwards and unbounded, freed from hatred and ill will. Whether standing or walking, seated or lying down, free from drowsiness, one should sustain this recollection. This is said to be the sublime abiding, by not holding to fixed views, the pure-hearted one, having clarity of vision, being freed from all sense desires, is not born again into this world. Mm. Thank you everyone for joining me in community and in the practice today. I'm so happy that you're all here. You all came to share this energy of mindfulness.
Thank you.
Yeah, good to see
Take
you.
care.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, and Casey and Angela, glad you're all here. And if you receive the benefits of this teaching and you feel called to practice cultivating a wholesome state of mind of generosity. We are a 501c3 nonprofit organization, and your support helps us to maintain this space for rent, and when we bring in guest teacher from other places, from other communities to come from near and far away. So grateful for your support. And there's the Dana, we call it Dana, that means generosity in Pali. And for those of you on Zoom, I'll put it in the chat where you can contribute. And you're welcome to take the handouts with you. Yes, and I will close here and let's see. All right. Put this in the chat for those of you online. Have a wonderful rest of your weekend, everyone. Take care. You're so welcome. Good to see you all.